Hello,
Hello, Dan.
how are you?
Daniel. I'm okay. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for agreeing to let us into your studio.
Yes, you're welcome. This is actually my home, as you know.
So I've been, just so everybody knows, I've been cutting your hair now for what, 3 years maybe?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, a few years.
Um, yeah, around 3 years. So
Yeah.
obviously, I haven't been able to come in for the last, 3 months. I
I
haven't
know.
been, yeah, I've been doing some DIY.
I noticed you've got the window behind you, so we can't really see
Yes.
your hair in too much
Yeah,
detail.
that's
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
my
yeah,
tactic.
yeah. But I've never really had a good chance to look at your work. So I thought while we were on lockdown, it'd be really nice. I've just seen a few bits on Instagram, so I thought it'd be really nice to sort of get to know your work a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just going to dive straight in with a bit of a question, and then maybe I know you've got some slides and stuff, and we can have a look. Um, but you used to work as a photographer, is that right? Or still do a bit of photography work?
I know. I think you've confused that with someone else. So my day job is I'm an engineer.
Yeah.
Um, okay, photography is maybe one of the materials that I use, but I'm not a photographer. My day job is a civil engineer in the
Hmm.
railway, and
Yeah.
but I also studied art like yourself. So my art was my second degree, and that is the reason why I came to the UK. Actually, I came here to do my master's because I got a scholarship. So that was many years ago now.
Ah, okay, yeah, yeah. Because what I was really interested in is some of the more recent stuff, and I just thought I'd be really interested to know how you got to from doing sort of photography and drawings to working with the improvisational orchestra and all the animation and moving image and how those things all sort of work together. Thought that was really
Okay,
nice.
right.
So,
Yes. Okay.
yeah, do you want to show us some stuff?
Yeah, I will just share my screen. Bear with
Yeah,
me.
no problem.
Can you see?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so is this format okay? Because it went a bit funny when I went to slideshow.
Oh, yeah, your computer. I mean, I think that's fine. Yeah, we can still
Yeah,
see them
yeah,
nice and
okay,
big.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so obviously that's my name and my website. So one of the things I need to do in the next few weeks is to update my website.
You do. I was just looking at your website. 2018 was the last time you
Yeah,
updated
no, I have done quite a few things since. So yeah, sorry about that, Dan. Right, so let's get to it. Right, so that's I wanted to talk a little bit about some of my older work
it.
before I go into my more recent drawing. So this was a piece of work that I did back in 2016 at a residency at Finsbury Park at someone's home. So that's a space called Space 36. And I was one of the 6 artists that were invited to do some work at the house. So back then I collected some materials inside the house, and some of the materials were belongings that were left behind by the previous owners. So, and some of the materials included photographs, like passport
Mm,
photos. And
wow.
these are some enlarged images of those passport photos that I found in the house of the previous residents.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this piece of work was actually related to hair, because we also found some letter in the house addressed to the previous owners, and there were letters from a wig company. And so in this piece of work, I highlighted the hair of the images, and I
Ah,
blurred the face because yeah, I wanted to show, the hair, to highlight that bit, and to
Nice.
bring the people out to the space, because from what I heard from the current owners in the property, is that this couple, Mr. and Mrs. Gu, they were quite reclusive. So they kept themselves, like inside all the time. So there was the idea behind this piece of work.
Yeah.
So at the same time,
Oh, wow.
I did another one. So this was also at that same space. But okay, maybe this is where the photography comes from. So you're right then. I mean, I'm not a photographer. Yeah, sorry, because I thought you confused me with my other friend who's a photographer, who's also one of your clients. So
Andrea, no, I
yes,
wasn't
that's right.
confusing
Yeah.
you. Yeah,
So yeah, so I mean, I used photographs as one of the materials, and again, I enlarged some of the passport photos that I found in the house. And these are photos of the previous owners, as well as photos of the current residents, Ahmed and Ellen. And
it's really haunting, isn't it? Having those
yeah,
eyes peering out the stairs. Yeah,
interestingly, yeah,
amazing.
some other things I found that Ahmed found in their house is this some newspaper cutting for whatever reason. So there was this cutting about a case called so the person who was convicted is called Winston Silcott. So that was a case back in, I think, 1985, if you do some research. And it involved a murder of a police constable. So I think for me, this piece of work is about, actually, all of us are kind of similar in a way. Maybe we're all guilty of something that we have done. And actually, there was some doubt back then about the conviction as well. So I'm not going to go into detail, but what I wanted to say is, so a few years ago, my work was very much narrative. So there are stories, very often stories behind them.
Yeah.
There's another installation that I did, and that was at Dronica Festival in London at a church called the Old Church at Stoke Newington. So this piece of work is called From Venice, and I guess that suggests that it's related to women. And the materials that I used then were some wedding veils, and also I tried to incorporate some projections in the work as well. So that was the time when I started to use projections in my installation and mix different media together.
Yeah. And were they actual wedding veils that people had used?
Not these ones. Yeah, no. Not these ones. They're new ones. But I have to say, I like to develop this piece of work a bit more, because I can see them moving, I think. So I like to incorporate some maybe mechanical movements and maybe sound.
Very theatrical.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sound into the work as well. So
amazing building. How did you get the use of the building?
Yeah, so no, I was actually part of the festival called the Dronica Festival. So it's an event of experimental electronic music.
Yeah.
So I was invited to install this piece of work in the venue. And so, yeah, so going forward, so from, something very narrative, and often involved objects, photographs. It then went on to drawings because I wanted to explore something that I can do easily at home. Because say when I'm doing my installation, very often I have to be in my studio. But then I also want to explore this option of working on my table, with pen, paper, something really simple. And because of my personal circumstances, a few years ago, I got very much involved in the experimental art scene. I mean, the experimental music art scene, and that involved improvisation that you mentioned before.
Yeah.
And the work has become quite they include a lot of like geometric shapes, numbers and letters, and I think that is partly to do with my engineering background. So the lines, the shapes, that's where the first idea came from. And
how did that feel when you started to bring in your like engineering background into your artwork?
Yeah, good. I mean, like in this next slide, I want to show you. So this is a very old piece of work done when I was doing my MA to 2009. It's in this work you can see the geometric elements coming into my work already. So it's not something new, I have to say. Just that it's always been there, and I just wanted to explore this a bit more. So and so that's just some, an example of my line drawings. I call them improvised drawings because when I start to do them, I don't have an image in mind as such, and I add elements as it goes. And then later on, some musicians saw my work, and then they said, "Oh, actually, can we use them as graphic scores?"
Wow.
And of course, people or other artists like Cornelius Cardew, a composer. I mean, he's done work like this before. So I said, yeah, okay, well, let's try. And then that's when things started, when I started to collaborate more with musicians. And actually, later on, I collaborated with dancers as well. For example, in this event back in Hong Kong, that's where I'm from, this is part of a festival, another festival called the Water Modulation Festival. So again, it's mixed media, and that was at the theater. So that was the first time I collaborated with a dancer and also another sound artist. And that was also the start of this animation coming into my work. So instead of just, still images, I've turned them into animation. So moving images.
And was that always the plan, or did that happen through sort of working with other people?
Yeah, that's working with other people. And also, I think at some point, especially now, things have become so much digital, and I thought, well, how can that become part of my work, or how can my work work in that context in the digital world, So I thought, well, maybe I can try. And I always had this image in mind that the shapes and lines and numbers, letters in my drawings would move. That's something I've always had in mind, that I could see them moving around somehow. And so yeah, that's how I started doing the animation.
And how did it work with the dancer? They just show up and then you sort of see what happens, or did
Yeah,
you have like
so
quite a good idea about what you wanted? And how did you find it collaborating with different
yes.
disciplines?
So interestingly, that's a good question. So this piece of work, In Search of Code for Undoing, again, it's got a narrative behind, and it's up on my website. So it's about the environment. It's about water, how water and some living organisms, or plants or human, are affected by the environment, or affected by pollution.
Yeah.
And so back to your question about how we collaborate. So the dancer Kim and the sound artist Red Pig Flower, they're both from South Korea, but we were all living in different places. For example, Red was based in Berlin, and I was in London, obviously, and Kim was in South Korea, even though this event took place in Hong Kong. So I communicated with the sound artist before the performance. So she came up with the sound after I've done my visuals. And then when we were in Hong Kong, we had maybe a couple of rehearsals the day before the actual performance. So we had this performed twice in 2 evenings. And we had a couple of rehearsals before then. So I would call it partly improvisation, because Kim did some practice during the day according to the sound, to the music and the visuals. But in the evening, she when we actually did the performance, she didn't just repeat what she did during the day. There were some new elements. So I would say it's like improvised dance, but not completely. They've seen the scores before, the storyboard, the sound. So that's how we collaborated, basically.
I see. So you're more sort of creating the environment and letting them respond to it, rather than
that's right. Yeah, but I
you
have to
wouldn't have
say,
given them any directions or instructions.
very little. I like to let people
very generous.
respond. I might just say 1 or 2 things. For example, there are areas in the video where I could see the music being a little bit more dramatic. Then I would say that, but it's up to the other artists to respond to the visuals.
Yeah.
And that's the base, that's the base of my work as well, is to, is that I start off the process, and I like to see how the sound or music or dance then respond to the visuals.
Yeah. Such striking imagery. It photographs very well.
Yeah, I unfortunately I can't show the actual videos, because that's another thing about collaboration. You have to be happy that everyone is willing to show the work on on any particular platform. So and in this case, I can only show photos.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's me there in the projection.
Well, it photographs very well.
Yeah. Yes, so that was the beginning of my experiment with animation then. And then just another example, that's something I did last year. So it's an exhibition that I curated in London, and it was an exhibition with another artist, Martin Harrison. So Martin is a sculptor. He's in his 70s, so he's very experienced, but he's not he hasn't got that many opportunities to show his work. So I curated this show because I thought I can see his quite organic kind of sculpture working with my visuals. So we occupied two different spaces in this gallery called the Hearts Lane Gallery at New Cross.
Oh yeah, I remember when you did this one. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think this building is quite interesting. It's the second time I did something there. And it used to be a small old garage turned into an art space. So in this exhibition, I've shown the animation that I did, and I've actually asked the audience to, feel free to bring their instruments to the exhibition and play to my visuals. So because my animation, my animation has become kind of like what we call graphic score. So I like people to respond to them. And I've got here Catherine, who is a musician that I've collaborated with quite a few times before. So this is a short clip that's showing Catherine playing or improvising to part of the visuals. Oh, sorry, I'll just let that.
Very cool. Really reminds me of sort of like, I feel like I'm in New York in the 60s or 70s with all the sort of different disciplines hanging out. And I always think that doesn't happen very much in London now.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I mean, I've started to collaborate more with other musicians and artists because of the development of the work, as opposed to just working on my own, with my installations that I showed you before. I pretty much just, worked on my own. But with this, that interaction with other people, that brings something else into the work, and I've done this, I've tried this this mode of performance with, say, for example, in this exhibition, in this clip, I've only had Catherine, one musician playing to the scores. but I also had in other occasions worked with a much bigger group of musicians. So this was with the London Improvisers Orchestra. And the difference with this, working with, say, a solo musician and working with a bigger group of musicians is that with a solo musician, the person can choose which visual elements she wants to respond to at a particular time.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with a big group of musicians, I have to be very specific and give them a bit of, more of a guidance and say, okay, maybe I like the pianist to focus on this element. Or when this symbol comes up, I like some sound or some music from the violin players, for example. So I have
you're more
to be more,
interpreting it for them.
yeah, it's more like a conducting kind of role. Yeah,
Did you
so
enjoy that?
that's yeah, I did, but I did this once with the orchestra. And there was something I learned, that I have to be. I mean, next time if I have the chance to do it again, I would like to be even more specific, because otherwise, because they are improvisers, and sometimes I felt that if the direction isn't clear, then it could become noise. And I like the sound to be a little bit more defined.
Yeah.
Yes, so this is up on my website. So this was done last year. And the reason why I want to show this piece of work is because around 2019, I wanted to do some bigger drawings. So this piece is 50 by 70 centimeters. And that is the biggest that I've done so far. So I want to see how, small elements and lines, numbers, etc., can fill up the space, a bigger space. And I just wanted to try and see if it could work or not.
Yeah.
Yes.
And where did the ideas for the images come from? Is that, again, you just starting with nothing and seeing where it takes you?
Yeah, so the dashed lines or dotted lines, they are always there in my drawing, because I think one of the concepts of using dashed lines instead of solid lines is that it's almost like a rhythm or a beat. The sound itself and the space between the sounds is just as important as the sound itself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in a dash line, again, it's a bit like, I don't know, yin and yang maybe. The space in between the dots or the dash is as important as the solid lines, or as important as the dots themselves, if you get the
you like
idea.
negative space.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was partly why I like to incorporate, the dotted lines in my drawing for that reason. And it's pretty much, as I said, again, it's improvisation for me visually.
Yeah. So it's working with the same methods as the musicians, really, isn't it? Because also, the quiet time in the music is as important as the notes.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how did you meet all the musicians?
All right, because of this, personal circumstances that I was in a few years ago. I was helping out in a art space, and that's where I started meeting, getting to know about, improvised music or experimental music. And that's how I met the other artists and musicians.
Yeah.
And
So
then they
cool.
suggested to use my drawings as visual scores, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And that's how it all started.
And is it quite a big scene in London, the experimental music
Yeah,
scene?
apparently, yes.
Yeah.
You know, they more I know about it, they obviously the more people I meet, and people do different things as well in the scene.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, I'd say it's quite vibrant.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to Lake Junction and I've been to Cafe Otto a few times. That's about
Right.
as far as I've got with the experimental music scene.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say it's not huge. I mean, you do
Yeah,
get to see the same musicians all the time, but they are very active.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. So this is a more recent drawing that I've done during the lockdown.
Mm.
So it's the latest drawing that I did recently. I mean, I have been quite slow, you know, with my art in the last, what, 2 months, 3 months. But I like to show this one because I think there's a bit of a difference, you know, say compared to the one I did last year.
Yeah.
Maybe the idea of social distancing come into this as well, you know,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
where the
yeah,
elements are very much on their own. You
yeah.
know, they're not touching. There's no interaction as such. So, and it's almost like I don't know, maybe a reflection of things that are going on in my head during this lockdown. You know, that
Yeah.
there are loads. Um, yeah,
And
many
are they
things
pen on
floating
paper?
around. Yeah, it's just pen on
Yeah,
paper.
pen on paper,
And
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And how long does it take you to make them?
Um, Depends. Say this one, because every time I added something into it, I mean, it could be something small that I added. So I try to work on it every day, and then there are times when I have to leave it alone for a bit before I go back to it again. And so I'd say maybe 2 3 weeks. This one
Mm.
in total.
Yeah,
Yeah, but as I said, sometimes it would just be, I don't know, 1 hour. And then other times I might want to, you know, I might spend a bit more time on it. So, but I think in total about 2 3 weeks.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And are you visualizing this being, I mean, how are you seeing the sort of collaboration with the musicians going forward? Would you
Right.
like to
Okay.
do more of that?
So yes. So I like to keep that collaboration going, and therefore, in my last slide coming up, I want to show you again. It's just an extract. It's not the whole piece.
Mm.
Again, another musician, Dave Tucker. He asked me, "Oh, do you have any visuals that you know that you can send over so that I can make some music to the video?" And then I thought, well, okay, I've got this one that I did last year, and one of my ideas is to use the same score, but you know, have different musicians responding to it, because I am sure everyone will you know would respond to the visuals differently. So I like to see how different musicians with different instruments would react to the visuals that they see. So say with this one is electronic music. Um,
Mm.
Yeah, so that's an
Nice.
extract
Yeah.
of the latest collaboration I've done during the lockdown.
Oh, that's been made during lockdown.
Yeah, so it was done last month. I sent the file to Dave, and then I let him get on with it. And then 2-3 weeks later, he sent me back the file with the music.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Are
So
you
I
happy
like
with
to
it?
do this a bit more. Yes, very happy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Builds a lot of tension just in that 1 minute there, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's 5 minutes long. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
thing about, previously when I had just the still drawings, the music can go on for as long as the musicians like to. But then with this, it's kind of, um, I won't say controlled, but I have a bit more say as to how long the whole piece is. Because
Yeah.
obviously my video was 5 minutes long. That's why the music was also about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. More finite, isn't it? I
Yeah,
think.
that's right. Yes.
And have you got any ideas about how you'd show this piece?
Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
the presentation is always, part of the work for me anyway. Yeah, there are many ways how we can show this. Obviously now I think everything is gone online, so I would like to upload this somewhere. And I can envisage maybe in an exhibition in the future, I would have different screens in the room showing these works all at the same time, and maybe
Yeah.
with or without headphones, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes. So
That's great. Thank you so much for
that's my
talking us through
presentation.
those works. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
brilliant.
sorry about my screen, because I tried this morning, but then
Ah, don't worry.
it some of the images didn't come up that well, so I thought
Yeah.
I'll just leave it like this.
Yeah, it was nice to see the progression through and the music and into the animation and the installations and yeah.
Good.
Brilliant. All right, well
Thank you
that's time
then.
up. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and I hope to see you
And
very soon.
we'll see you in the next few weeks. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
All right, Livia.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye now.